So we are here with Curtis Marshall, our head of curriculum. What's your official title?
I'm a PSA curriculum supervisor.
Okay. I always get the title sometimes.
I just say I'm a supervisor and we're done with it.
So he has had a large hand in just about every aspect of the academy, transferring over, like you said, even getting control tactics, or just building tons of programs. But the coolest thing, and I think Curtis gets to have his hands in, is the simulator, the Vertra simulator that he's kind of a master trainer, and he's going to tell us a little bit about. So take us through like what you got here, just generally what the system can do and how we use it in the department.
So the best way that I like to explain Vertra is it is where theory and practice come together in a controlled environment. And I've come to add without any real world outcomes, meaning unlike we know happens in a facility, right, or even on the streets with parole or investigations, everyone's going home out of this, right?
Yep.
Everybody's going home on a positive note. We don't do negative-based training. We always finish on a positive note as much as we possibly can. We're blessed to be able to team up here with McCletsy by us moving the training academy here to the McCletsy grounds. It's allowed us to team up and have access to one of 3 Vertras here on site. These are a very expensive tool. Certainly nothing that was in the foreseeable budget for us otherwise. And it gets us to the next level of training because again, we're theory and practice meet. So the things that we go over with the students in the classroom, we bring them into Vertra, we ask them to apply it. So that could be anything from radio, use of radio, handcuffing, use of force, OC, in certain situations it could be firearm, and most importantly communications de-escalation.
So that's kind of the main part of it, learning those communication skills that happen in various scenarios.
Absolutely.
So whether it's firearms, different weapons, a jumper, a suicide, a large fight, whatever, the communication is really the input that drives the response.
Absolutely.
And
so
today we'll be able to go through this, right?
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How many different scenarios do we have on this?
There's well over 300.
How many are really pertaining, really feel well tailored to what we do in corrections that you guys tend to use frequently?
So what we tend to use frequently is probably 2 to 3 dozen.
Okay.
We've really got them broken down. Myself and one of the TRT lieutenants, he and I were the ones who actually were brought into the Vertra project now a little over, right at 2 years, a little over 2 years ago. We went to, as you said, the Master Instructor course, been to a refresher on that. And we literally, he and I sat down, spent days over here before the academy ever moved, and literally went through every one of these scenarios. Then, as you know, one of your good friends was brought in from mental health to take
Timothy Lawrence.
Yeah, Tim Lawrence.
Shout out to Timmy.
Yep. Because of his involvement with the academy and as our liaison between the academy.
Yeah, and Tim's had a wealth of experience on NEMAT, hostage negotiations, crisis team training, and he's kind of like you, but he's had his hand in our mental health curriculum.
Right.
So good choice.
Yep. So we wanted to get that input, and then we, through our attrition here at the training academy, we were able to bring Matt Hall on. He's one of our instructors here at the academy. If you know Matt has been part of hostage negotiations and NEMAT for a long time. Very respected member of that team. So now we have him in here with us too. I've actually got him and another one of our instructors, Omu, brought up to speed. So they're actually helping run this system so that I can do all my other administrative duties, right?
Makes sense.
And I come in and out with them and the TRT folks, and we reached out to more TRT folks because that's their area is what, our firearms training, right? So for that and the use of force, we involved them. Myself and Omu also have a background in use of force. So we're just marrying all these things together.
Yeah,
That's why we want to we want that recipe for the cadets and even parole cadets and even some of the in-service that we've had from investigations, other parole, even some of the executive staff who visit us. we've done that so that we can build a recipe for everyone to be able to get the most out of these preloaded scenarios.
And I think what Curtis is saying, I'll use a sports analogy. I like to kind of dumb it down. I'm the dumbest doctor you'll ever meet. So it's kind of like being able to, you know, when we played basketball, you always had that free throw at the last second of the game for the winning shot. You could run, you could get tired. You could never recreate that moment of a regional championship.
Right.
You can never recreate that pressure. So it's recreating that pressure, all the real life stimulation and inputs without the potential for the real life physical consequences. Like, where else are you going to get tactical training without having to get shot at, waste a bunch of ammo, and have potentially really big safety issues, and have that threshold of kind of mental awareness and alertness at the 99, 100% level?
So I also see, this right here. And obviously, this is, we know you call this the Octagon.
Yep.
Right? It's Marshall's Octagon. Right?
Marshall's Law.
Marshall's Law.
I just call it the Octagon.
So,
I don't know any other way to explain it.
These looks like tenets that you have
They are.
in regards to, before we step into this, what we have to say, right? So, I know, talking to you in the past, you said before you had the cadets step in here, you have them read this out loud, right? So those watching, it's be calm, be confident. Slow down, take a breath, check your emotions, consider backup, be aware of your surroundings. And then we step in and we do this. Right? So I'm seeing that you have tools as well behind you. And now, is this what you give the cadets? Or who's ever stepping in, you want to explain this for me?
So out of the, like I said, we've taken and broken down some of the scenarios, and we've broken them down so far that within the groupings that I've talked about, 2 to 3 dozen, we have ones that are specific selected for correctional officer trainees, right? So the PSCT cadets. We utilize those scenarios, we brief them, we have them step into the Octagon, we brief them from down here and tell them, here is your scenario. And just because not all of these were, or in fact none of them were actually filled in an IDOC facility, okay, we set a little bit of the stage verbally with them. And we tell them what their tools are. So their tools could be either radio, handcuffs, keys, OC, okay, and that's it. For our parole folks, we can give them a lot of that same thing, and then we can also add a Glock like they would carry on the street, or very similar to it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that is probably 90% a real Glock with what, just kind of like a little air compressor or something to kind of simulate the flashback.
Yeah, it's
recoil?
actually, it's more like 99% real Glock. There's an IR barrel in it, and then there's a magazine that uses food grade CO2 to give you that slide actuation. It gives you what we call the report, as if the round would be going off if there's a real round.
So yeah,
But
and
nothing
we've
like
checked it out before. You know, the noise isn't quite as loud as a firearm,
Yeah.
but the feel, that is literally a real firearm that several law enforcement agencies use that
Absolutely.
Glock. And the kickback, everything, it's as close as you can get without, again, going into the realm of potential negative consequences.
Right. Now, there's no real ammo used in here at any time. There's no real OC. This OC, it looks like a Mark III OC canister, same shape as a Mark IV, like we carry in most of the facilities. Mark III is carried by all our plainclothes officers, including, parole investigations. But it has an IR sensor, so when they go to spray, it gives a report on the screen. The person on there will react to it. We can see on the screen if they actually hit the target. Same with the firearm. If they were to deploy a firearm in a scenario, it would do the same thing.
So it's not just like an automated system when I ask a question and it automatically responds. You're saying that when we go through this, just so we all understand this, you're typing in the response. So if I go in all hostile, right? If I go in all crazy,
If you didn't listen to the
if I didn't listen to your 5 tenets, right? When I go in, I just throw a kink in everything in the situation. You're going to respond to how I go in
Yep.
and interact with
Absolutely.
them live on screen,
Absolutely.
just like that.
So
Absolutely.
if we're hearing it correctly, so there's a combination of taking some of this IR feedback that kind of happens automatically. You can track where they hit, where they point. you listening and watching verbally, and usually you have a couple people doing the input.
Correct.
So it's the computer's doing some of it automatically, and then the master trainers are doing kind of the rest, plugging in.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as closest to a real life.
Yeah.
Until we get like total AI, which that chat CPT or whatever that's coming out, we're probably
Right.
getting there. We're scared.
Well, so ideally we try to use 3 operators, and one of us will, as you said, we run the machine, the Virtua itself. We're doing the input, reaction to the input that you're giving in the scenario. The other person sitting here is doing what we have an evaluation sheet. Okay, this class is pass-fail based on the fact of it is you either participate or you don't. If you don't participate, it's a failure, and it's a major part of your training.
Yeah.
But this person is monitoring what they see, and then if we're able to do it, ideally there'll be another person up in the Octagon. Usually that's where I spend a lot of my time, but not always. We switch it up. But that person is coaching. Okay, it's very hard to sit down here and do all that and get the best results. We've tried a couple of different recipes, if you will, and this is the most successful.
Well, with large cadet classes, taking one person in an Octagon at once for half an hour, giving them the feedback is not the most efficient.
It won't happen.
So some of that's got to happen in real time. And
Yeah.
So that's why you got multiple
Yeah.
ways to it.
Yeah, when I like to say when we're in rotation week and we're using the Virtua along with our other stations that we have for experiencing cell house scenarios with cells and day room and cuffing that we do and things like that. I mean, we're getting after it. The staff here, very proud of them. They're getting after it. Those 3 weeks, and you guys have been in email talks with me on trying to schedule things.
Yeah.
I'm like, we just don't have anybody to spare.
Yeah.
We're down to the wire and we're getting.
Well,
after it.
we talked to the cadets a little bit today, right before we came over, and we talked to some of the previous classes. The feedback on this was overwhelmingly positive. And not that everybody did perfectly well on it, but they all were able to share kind of what they learned, how important it was to be able to utilize this. In talking to some of our early cadet classes that are now back at facilities, some of them have already run into incidents, and the feedback on this is really great. That this is putting us in a position to respond appropriately.
Yeah, because the ground shakes. It sounds like you're in a day room, from what I've been told. So for me,
Let's go check it out.
you ready to do this?
Yeah. You got a scenario for us?
Well, I can get you a scenario. That's no problem. All right, guys. So I'm going to let you both get in the Octagon here. Luke, he read the tenants already, but you're going to have to read the tenants too.
I hear you out loud. Okay. All right. This doesn't sound too dissimilar from when we do crisis training, the escalation response. Same kind of thing, just that little check-in. So be calm, be confident, slow down, take a breath. Check your emotions, consider backup, and be aware of your surroundings. Okay, let's remember.
All right, I'm ready to do this. Let's do this.
And I will tell you this, it's very rewarding when you see cadets read this, go up, they go through a scenario, we debrief them, and they go start over, and they say these, literally they will stand up there and start mumbling this, and they will take that deep breath, okay? And anybody of us that's ever ran into a fight, went to that 10-10 call at a facility knows, man, I just ran across the facility, collect myself, right? I don't want to do bad things because I'm running low on oxygen. I don't want to make bad judgment calls. I don't want to be about my
Oh, no doubt. We're never just from that
No.
total calm state.
My
being
question,
thrown into
Luke,
it.
have you ever used those two before?
Not officially.
All
Not at work.
All right, so this is the closest we're gonna get to it. So there's a little thing right here, right? Lift up, you push. Just don't,
Release.
yeah, don't.
We grab it like we mean it.
Yeah.
We do that. We call it the C grip. See this? C grip right here. I always joke. I'm not putting on any toilet water. I'm not doing any of that
If
perfume.
you're going to hit it, get after it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And then it gives you other options, which I won't get into for self-defense if you have to.
A short burst is. No.
Short burst is relevant to everybody. It's got a different definition of short burst.
Till my thumb quits sticking.
Yeah.
Short burst is just that, okay? So you guys ready to get after it?
Let's get it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
All
All right,
right.
so let's go ahead and step to the center of the Octagon. You should be pretty much right underneath the cameras and the IR sensors above you, okay, the projectors. Now, feel free, once this scenario starts, you're going to face your 12 o'clock straight ahead. Once the scenario starts, you can move around, say what you need to say, and use the tools that you have been provided, okay?
All right.
You have your OC spray. We're going to say, for sake of argument, you've got a radio so you can call for help if you need to. Okay?
All right. We ready to get this started?
Let's get it.
Let's get it started.
Okay.
Jeez.
Nice job, guys.
Whew. That was
That's real.
That was the closest. You're right. That's the closest we can get to the real thing.
Kind of gives you that feeling like you're back over at the facility. But
Yes.
Let's go somewhere, sit down, and talk about it. Get the audience through kind of what we did.
I'm down for that. Yeah.
So we'll be back in a second.
All right. Yep.
Hey guys, we're back here at our new podcast headquarter office. We just got out of the Virtua simulator. It's hard to say all that, right?
It is.
My tongue's sticking. And we're going to do a little debrief. We're going to talk to Curtis, our master trainer there. He's going to kind of give us some feedback on how we did, tell you a little bit about kind of what went on. We can't obviously share all the trade secrets, but
you guys did well. I mean, you hit it on the head. You came out. You said, "Man, that felt real," right?
Yeah. It was.
So that's by design. I mean, that's exactly what we want you to do. Now, I mean, it's like anything, and you're the guy that walks in everybody's attic. But no, seriously though, if you go in there with the mindset, I know everything and I've got nothing to learn, you could probably talk yourself out of embracing what's happening in there. But if you go in there the way I would have to say literally 99.9% of our cadets have and the other in-service staff that I talked about earlier do, it draws you in. I mean, when I do like the active shooter scenario, which kind of one of my fortes, I actually get almost a vertigo because, and not a bad one, but I feel everything moving around me.
yeah. Just the first couple, moments were a little different as you don't know exactly how it's going to start and what the feedback from, the Virtua is going to be. But after, you have a couple of verbal interchanges, you're in there. I mean, the environment, did it look exactly like one of the prisons we have? No, but very few of our prisons look exactly the same. It was very believable. You got a lot of concrete and metal, people in custody congregated in certain areas, the uniforms, the background noise where it was kind of hard to hear things.
It was as loud as a day room.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
The situation we went through, the scenario we went through was we both walked in and there was so much going on. We initially thought that fight was happening in front of us.
Yeah.
Right. And I went mentally security mindset of looking around me to make sure what's happening. And we noticed off to the left what was happening.
Yeah, and it took a moment to notice or to at least focus on that as kind of a novel stimulant because there was so much, on most of those screens going on to recognize, where we needed to focus our attention. But it does a really good job, that last tenet on those steps before you, be aware of your surroundings, constantly kind of looking at all the screens because there's a lot going on. And that's what our custody staff deal with day after day, that you've obviously got whatever's in front of you, but who knows what's beside you, behind you, and keeping yourself safe by closing that distance.
Absolutely.
And you told us right before we stepped in to pay attention to our surroundings. And you said it with a smirk on your face, if remember correctly. And we instantly go in, and I see off my periph what's happening after I look. And I tell Luke, hey, look left, check left. And you have your OC, I have my OC, and you're looking, and we initially think there's a fight happening in front of us, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't an actual physical fight. It was just a verbal fight. Mm-hmm. What we saw to our left was an inmate or was an offender in custody assault happening, right? And we then geared our direction towards the left in the showers and what was happening. And it was one of those things that I don't know how you, Luke, felt in that process, stepping on a day room and going through that situation of, wow, this is loud, there's so much we're watching and paying attention to, and then boom, this is happening. Now we have to divert everything over there, but we still have to constantly make that effort to look back right, to look
yeah,
back
it's multitasking the entire time. You don't get to just focus on one thing. And the check your emotions thing came in too, right? Because you get a little nervous, you get worried, and you're feeling vibes. It's kind of hard to explain, but the kind of small altercation, the kind of verbal aggression that was happening in the center of the, scenario obviously grabs your attention at first. And I think we are we have a heightened awareness of that in our facilities. And I think, the way the brain chemistry works, I've worked with a lot of vets with PTSD. Our sensitivity to that stuff is up really high because if we recognize it sooner, we can either get the heck out of there or intervene. And so, you've got that sensitivity on full blast, and there's just, stimulus coming here, stimulus coming from there.
Well, it's like anybody who's ever worked inside a housing unit, and basically, I've come out of Pontiac, right, where older facilities, a little different sound dynamic, but even when you go to a newer facility like Illinois River, or you go to any of the others where you're Jacksonville, someplace like that, the sound is still very overwhelming. It echoes, like you said, the concrete, the steel. There's no real sound deadening to it, and it's just a matter then of we could add, you add the extra dynamic of maybe somebody kicking a door or something like that, like they might do on a steel door in certain facilities. But at the bottom line, it's chaos. And what's that do to us when we respond in like that, right?
Yeah. We
can be standing next to each other like we are sitting here and yelling and still have to read each other's lips because we can't hear over the chaos.
Yeah.
Well, that provides a mental disorientation to responding staff. And that's why we tell them, you want to be aware of it so you know what you're walking into, but we also want you to be aware of who's joining. Did a couple folks mosey in from a call pass and now they're in behind you?
Absolutely.
And you expect them? Or better yet, and hopefully what's happening is once you've called the code or the 1010 or whatever is happening in front of you, your responding staff's coming in. Now you need to start helping them and directing them, so they have a little bit of a beat of what's going on without finding out something the hard way.
One thing you said as well when we right before we went going in on this, you said this isn't gotcha training.
Absolutely not.
Right.
This is not. We will not do failure-based training. It won't. It won't happen.
And that there was nothing gotcha about that. Like
no.
This is as close to the real life situation that we can get to, and putting these cadets in this, I find value in your Octagon.
Well, it's dynamic, right? Like you don't just memorize something and then go in there. There's this constant feedback, and every single variable changes.
Yeah,
based on how you
how you interact with it, and that's one thing. Like when you told us as well, like if you go in all froggy and all crazy, you're going to control it and be just as froggy.
So imagine describing that scenario and giving somebody a paper test. Well, now we have computer testing that grades it. We've got some cool technology here, but imagine seeing that kind of visually, just a test where you've got this paragraph of what's going on. What's your first step? What's your second step?
Yeah.
We could identify and say, okay, we secure the area. We call for backup. We break up this fight. We put those folks in custody over here. We could do all that, but doing it in the actual sequence, in the ups and downs of the emotion, and just handling yourself in the totality cannot be captured on a paper test.
Well, there isn't, and you're right. We have tests for this because, like I said earlier, we're asking them to take the components they learn in the weeks and days prior to rotation weeks before they go in there, or even when we've had the parole cadets go through. We're preloading the skills. We're getting that idea, and are we testing to see if they retain it? Yes, but your point is well taken. The test of it truly doesn't come until they're applying it. And again, I understand, and no one is trying to say this is the real deal because we don't have real people there, right? But it is close as we can get in a controlled environment without having to worry about somebody getting killed or seriously injured or maimed. I mean, it's just that controlled environment. So it's a positive learning experience. Now, do some people not do very well? Absolutely. Do we have to have a little bit longer debrief in between them rerunning the scenario? Absolutely. But the best part about that is every student seated in the audience then that's waiting their turn to go, or they've gone and they're just waiting for the next rotation, they're there watching that. They're getting value out of watching someone else go through because most of the time it's a different scenario than what they had.
Yeah, it would be just like being, behind the glass, something's happening on the wing and you're watching from 20 feet away.
Absolutely.
Like you may have not been involved in that incident, but there's still a lot of learning. I would have handled it this way. I see what he did there. Boy, that's what would have scared me. That's where that debriefing, I think, is probably so powerful, so people can play the Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, and it happens. Everything is based on, totality of circumstances. We teach that a lot, and the other thing is situations dictate tactics. So while we always tell cadets that while things might be similar, and you may recognize things that's happened recently to you, or even in this scenario, we're guaranteeing them it's not going to be the exact same thing, programmed, scripted out once they get into the facility. But as long as you can lump it into a general category and say, hey, I recognize this from our Vertra training, I can plug this in, and okay, these are some things I know I don't want to do. I don't remember, I think you both have alluded to going in and basically talking all crazy, losing your mind and forgetting your communications, de-escalation skills can be detrimental. I mean, we all know that as experienced staff. The staff out there know that things that we say and do immediately can dictate whether a situation is going to go for the positive or it's going to go south.
I think this is going to be a powerful tool for memory. Like you said, the fancy term of scaffolding. We're never going to hit every exact scenario how it's going to play, but if we can get something close enough that in times of distress, your memory can pull on, hey, I've got this example. I've just got to add a little flavor to this recipe. I think we're going to be much better off than, I remember taking this in a textbook, or I remember somebody talking about this vaguely.
Well, it's almost like, I hate to say this because it's a very old term. The military used to use it a lot, and I know we're not the military, but there's a lot of truth in it, and it's an inoculation, if you will. It inoculates your senses and your mind to this certain scenario, this danger, this is not good, this is...
Yeah, it's exactly how vaccines are supposed to work. We won't get into that, right?
No, we're not going
right?
there.
Your body recognizes this, and
exactly.
it doesn't have the exact immune response, but sort of primed for it.
Exactly. And that's what this is designed to do.
Well, any other final thoughts as we're kind of wrapping up today about virtual, or any kind of thing else here at the Academy?
Virtua has just allowed us to go to a whole new level. The whole new Academy has allowed us to go to a new level. I'm a traditionalist. You guys know I came through many years
He's
ago.
from the old school.
91. It's in the rearview mirror just a little bit. But I'm also a historian, so to speak, if you will. I love the history. I love history in general, but I love the history of this department. And the Academy originally started Concordia, and I know we're not going to get into that, but in 1981. So from 1981, and I just found some of the old files the other day when I was looking for some things I needed to take care of a couple other pieces of work. And 1981's curriculum, compared to where we stayed for a long time, wasn't really that different. And I understand there's the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Sure.
But times are changing. We learn differently. The adult learning styles learn differently. Things are different. We have more technology that helps us learn better. And I don't mean just a computer. Yeah, we have the computers for the cadets. But at the end of the day, we are able through this new academy to do more hands-on training. And it's where we're allowed to make that combination of that classroom, that mundane PowerPoint, that whole, God, I've been in here for hours listening to the PowerPoints, and I'm listening to the lecture.
Death by PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'm drooling on myself, and I'm doing, But this allows them to get out there and apply it, and we want them to apply it. Some people might say, well, they're going to get to apply it all right when they come to the facility and they do it the real way. Yeah, except the problem of it is the person that they're doing it in the real way might want to hurt them or you.
Yeah.
This allows us to have those hands-on practices in that jail area that you saw, in that Sallyport area. It allows us to give more of that type of training, the DCT training. We have a dedicated area for those of you who've been around the DCT world. We had mats and it was great. It was the best we could do, but we had mats that we were loaned to us or sold to us. However that worked out, I don't really know, but they were already expired in some high school or college someplace. and they were handed down to us. And any of us that
The
fell on
sweat
those-
of 1,000 bodies just caked into those
and you know,
things.
the thing of it is, when you fell on those, you were trying to judge. I'm not sure the ground might not have felt a little bit better.
Yeah.
But we have wall-to-wall mat room now. We have padded walls, so if somebody, you know, we get a little jiggy and we're doing some more advanced techniques,
Yeah.
some of the in-service, people are safer. You know, and it's just a lot better and more conducive environment. Yeah, we can always say I did great. I walked uphill both ways in the snow up to my waist, and I made it just fine. But we should want something better for the next generation of our staff.
Sure.
We want to show them we're investing in them. We want to give them the best possible start, because I do believe that lowers anxiety. It's going to give them a better chance at their job, more job satisfaction.
Can't say it much better than that. I think you guys have my stamp of approval. What you're doing here is amazing. Yeah. Definitely preparing folks for the career better. And that has to have some impact on the ability, you know, staying power of those folks. We train them right, treat them well. They tend to stay better and perform better.
Attention.
I appreciate you letting us come here and use Virtua, and everything you do here. It's going to be a positive influence, like you said, on the future generations and corrections. And having someone like you in this role, I find it valuable.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really thank you guys for coming and giving us an opportunity to show how fortunate we are to have.
Well, you guys are planting a lot of good seeds in a lot of areas. You know, you're preaching our stuff with staff wellness. You're preaching training. You're preaching all kinds of tactics, theories, stuff that's great. So if anybody listening or watching, if you get a chance to ever come here for a class or a training or a family member's graduation, whatever it is, come here, check it out, talk to Curtis, talk to some of the other guys. Maybe they'll get you a little bit of a tour.
Absolutely.
Too cool of a place not to come see. We're blessed to have this in our backyard.
We're excited when folks that are, we call them legacies, whether it's friends and or family, legacy corrections, come to watch somebody else younger, you know, come through the academy and be their graduation. And they've come here to take a tour, which, you know, this is only our third class we're on right now at this new facility. But we encourage them, come do that, come take a tour. We're not holding your feet to the fire. There's no admission, so you can drop off anytime you want to. Most everyone has said that has done it is, this isn't where I started at Concordia. This is not what I expected. This is much different and much better.
Now, let's end on this note. What would you say to family members who are sending their husband, wife, brother, son, daughter here to the academy? What kind of final words would you say to them as you send these men and women back to their facilities? What do we say to the family?
That's a good question.
Oh, wow. Loaded one, too. I would tell you to be supportive. Be supportive of that staff. I know that is a general cliche, but they are going to be given tools. For some of them that are the legacy, accept the fact, and I'm that person also. I can look back and say, all of us have been around a while, and say, wow, things have changed. Well, they have changed. But allow that new staff member, friend or family member to change and be part of the new lead, the new generation, and support them in it. Don't talk about, well, I think we should be at this or that. I mean, you can have these discussions. Those are healthy also. But at the end of the day, if they hear enough negativity, they're going to start to question, am I, aren't I, wasn't I trained right, et cetera. I can promise you they're getting the training they need. They need the support moving on to help them get through those tough shifts when they'd rather be at home and at the kid's birthday party and at these other things, and you'd rather have them there. It is for the greater good, and for those of us who've been around, I'll say the public service business for quite a while, we all know it is a noble cause, and
Absolutely.
It does pay in dividends. It's
lots of people, even if they don't come, in work shifts here, they put some sacrifices in. And we want to thank Curtis and Stephen Ryan and all the other trainers and folks here that have been on the prep end and on the training end, because I do think we are sending folks to the facility, sending them home as good or better than we've ever sent them before. And that's the best we can do. So, other folks listening, offer your support too. And with that, we'll have some long and healthy careers.
Yeah, and I don't ever want to take anything away from the work that has been done by the staff in the past at our training academy. I started 4.5 years ago. Great staff from when we started, years ahead of that. It's just we're just changing. We've got a new staff, and I would have to say about the old staff, and I'll say it about our newer staff. this staff here is not here just because of the job. They are truly here because they believe that they are here to make a difference.
There are easier places to hide.
Yeah, if you're not coming here to hide, that's for a fact. That's not going to happen.
Well, Curtis, thank you for your time. We appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
All right. Thanks, guys.